Cup race, 22 laps around circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Alors Michel, on est presque prêt pour le départ. Ça sera un départ derrière le Pace Car, cette routillante Mercedes SLK. Cars taking off on this warm-up lap, the pace lap behind the pace car. And certainly a lot of interest here and to see who can win. And can Scott Maxwell make it 2 in a row? He is starting from the pole. Certainly an advantage for Maxwell in this race.
Une course de 45 minutes. Faudra voir qui va établir tout de suite sa loi. C'est évident qu'avec un gars comme Scott Maxwell, il faut s'attendre à ce qu'il y ait de l'action. De toute façon, n'a-t-il pas remporté la victoire hier lors de la première épreuve de cette série de la Coupe Motorola? A remarqué qu'il y a plusieurs pilotes qui n'ont pas qualifié leur voiture, sauf qu'ils sont invités à participer quand même à la série. C'est le cas notamment de Richard Spénard, qui est à bord d'une Porsche 911. Donc, on assistait à une très bonne course hier avec de grosses cylindrées là, qui vraiment ont survolé littéralement cette piste. De belles bagarres en tout cas.
Absolutely, this is a very, very crowded grid. And certainly there are several drivers to watch in this race. I don't mean to select one driver over another, but in terms of people who are known to local, to those of you in the grandstands, of course, there's Tara McDonald-Cadieux driving car number 26, the only female driver in the race. There is also Jason Priestley, the actor, making a big splash here in Montreal in car number 45. He currently is 16th on the grid, and also a bit further back. But don't forget about Mark Craig, racing in the Hyundai Tiburon. He's a star of a local ad campaign for the Hyundai Motor Company. So a few of the more familiar names to you, but of course, those of you who've been following racing here at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve know the name Richard Spinard very, very well. And King Richard is starting way back in 19th spot on the grid. And pardon me, he's starting 23rd on the grid. And I have a funny feeling that Richard Spinard will make quite a run through the field here at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in that Porsche 911 that finished second yesterday to Scott Maxwell.
De toute façon, je suis persuadé qu'il va s'amuser comme un petit fou, Richard, avec la Porsche 911. Alors, c'est tout un train de voiture, comme vous le voyez. 40 partants. C'est beaucoup d'action parce que très rapidement, étant donné qu'il y a 4 catégories au programme, grand sport, sport, tourisme et compact, très rapidement, les meneurs vont rattraper les voitures les plus lentes. Et alors là, dans la circulation lourde, ça joue du coude et on a les épaules larges. Bref, ça brasse pas mal.
Once again, there are 4 categories, and there will be 4 podium ceremonies coming up after the race. As now we see the pace car head for the pits. They will come around. Will it be yellow? Will it be green? We wait. They will probably do one more lap. Yes, one more lap. One more warm-up lap, and then the start. Once again, the race is not underway. One more lap to go, folks, before we go green.
Un autre tour de formation avant que le drapeau vert ne soit accordé. On surveillera bien tantôt si la formation est correcte. On pourra alors lancer cette course officiellement. Alors, c'est tout un podium qu'on vous réserve à la fin de cette épreuve avec pas moins de 12 pilotes. Puisqu'il y a 4 catégories au programme, comme je vous disais tantôt. L'avantage de cette série, c'est qu'on peut y participer au volant d'à peu près n'importe quel genre de voiture avec ces 4 catégories-là, ces 4 classes-là au programme.
Oui, j'ai songé à vous donner la liste complète des voitures qui sont participe, qui ont le droit d'être dans cette série, mais c'est tellement long que ça me prend toute la soirée de vous le dire. Mais il y a plus d'une centaine de voitures. Il y a juste une règle générale, ça doit être une voiture, pas une prototype, ça doit être une voiture qui est en vente libre. Qui est en vente libre et qui avait plus de 5000 copies produites dans une année. And certainly, as these cars now make their way around this final warm-up lap, we have to wonder if Scott Maxwell can make it 2 for 2 in the Grand Sports class. And of course, as we call this race for you, we will be focusing on the lead of the race, which is between the Grand Sport cars. But there are several battles taking place further back in the field in the sport, touring, and compact classes, and we'll try and give you details on that too. But of course, the main focus of attraction are the big guns in the Grand Sport class. Once again, they make their way down the circuit towards the casino hairpin. And as you can see, a very colorful field of this, the second race of the weekend for the Motorola Cup. And now Scott Maxwell slows them down as they go into side-by-side formation.
Côte à côte, Scott Maxwell et John Heinrichs.
Of course, John Heinrichs is currently leading the championship in the Grand Sports category. So for Scott Maxwell, it would be nice to do a bit of catching up there, as Heinrichs was a winner at the race number 1 at Daytona, and also he was very, very competitive at the second event of the year at Homestead. So here we go again, another rolling start coming up, and we hope to see a clean one. It should be kind of hairy. Those of you sitting near the Senna hairpin, the Senna corner, stand by as Maxwell turns in for the chicane. The rest of the field follows suit. Will it be yellow or will we go green?
Surveillons bien le jaune et le vert. Le préposé au départ va porter son jugement dans un petit instant. On a un vert, donc on a une course. C'est parti.
And we're off. It goes green. And Maxwell rockets to the lead. The car number 11 of Douglas Goad right away into second place.
Douglas Gold vient de chercher tout de suite cette deuxième position, mais Heinrichs est à l'intérieur, va conserver cette deuxième place. Mais n'oublions pas que cette Firebird jaune, la numéro 11, a énormément de pouvoir. On s'en est rendu compte hier. Toute une course. Alors c'est Douglas Gold qui mène cette voiture en troisième position actuellement.
So they're cleanly through the first corner, which was absolutely miraculous. And there you see further back in the field, the Ferraris mixing it up with other cars like Mustangs. And there we got a shot of Jason Priestley, but at the front, Scott Maxwell and John Heinrichs. Heinrichs fighting off the attacks of Douglas Goad into turn number 1. And it's Heinrichs ahead of Goad, 1, 2, 3. And of course, we keep our eyes on the battles further back in the field. That's Steve Earle in 4th place, and Terry McDonald-Cadieux has moved up to 5th. So Terry McDonald-Cadieux and Steve Earle goes off the track and loses a few spots.
Incroyable qu'il n'y ait pas eu d'accrochage jusqu'à maintenant. Avec 40 voitures en piste, dans le premier virage, ça se précipitait.
And now we have a bit of a train behind Terry McDonald-Cadieux as the leaders pull away a little bit. The battle for the lead, those first 3 cars, the cars of Maxwell, Heinrichs and Goad pull away, and now some pressure perhaps for Terry McDonald-Cadieux. We'll see how she handles it, and she's really under pressure there. Seems like we're clean through the hairpin also as Scott Maxwell comes around to complete the first lap in the lead. And there's that move on the inside. Yes, Cadieux just gives enough room. They both cut through the chicane. As they come down the start-finish line, we watch for positions. It's Maxwell, Heinrichs, Goad. 4th overall, car number 32. That's Don Knowles. So Don Knowles makes the move on Terry McDonald-Cadieux, taking away 4th place. And also dragging some dirt onto the track. That could be a factor later on in the race. And looking further back in the field, on a giant screen, we saw a shot there of Richard Spinard. There he is in that dark blue and yellow Porsche 911. And he's already making his way through the field. So after lap 1, it's Maxwell, Duckworth, Terry McDonald-Cadieux, then Jean-François Veilleux, then Spinard already up into the 9th place. Steve Earle in 10th.
Alors Richard Spinard s'amuse comme un petit fou. Il est quand même parti de la 22e position. Le voilà rendu en 9e.
Yeah, I think that Richard Spinard is up to 9th or 10th place already. And certainly a very good performance by him there. And further back in the field, you see him all over the back of car number 89. That is the entry of Jean-François Veilleux. So Richard Spinard all over the back of Jean-François Veilleux. That's a Porsche 911 taking on a Chevy Camaro. And Spinard makes over for the inside at the hairpin, and Spinard takes him. So Richard Spinard, King Richard, giving everybody here a driving lesson. Of course, he is the director of the Players Driver Development Program. And what a story it might be if Richard Spinard can continue this battle here. Currently, we have him listed as 7th on the race so far. So Richard Spinard wasting no time as Scott Maxwell comes through to complete lap number 2.
Alors Richard Spinard, à mon avis, serait 7e actuellement. On vérifiera.
So it's Maxwell.
On revoit ici le dépassement de Richard Spinard au volant de la Porsche 911.
And there could be a problem for Heinrichsey now as he's back to 3rd place and at risk of being taken again. Yes, John Heinrichsey is now back into 4th spot overall, so perhaps some kind of mechanical problem there. We don't know exactly. And Terry McDonald-Cadieux, very aggressive on the inside of car number 94. That is the car of Paul Duckworth. Terry McDonald-Cadieux makes that move on the inside, and I tell you, Duckworth has nowhere to go. He turns in, but now Duckworth has the line, and they swap some paint in a very tight race there. And now Richard Spinard, who is trying to catch up through the field here, has had the door really shut in his face by Terry McDonald-Cadieux. But now Spinard has the line, takes Terry McDonald-Cadieux on the inside. So it's Maxwell, Gode, Heinrichsey, Knowles, McDonald-Cadieux, but now passed by Richard Spinard.
Une vraie partie de plaisir pour le roi Richard. Il s'amuse, le roi Richard, il est dans son élément. À bord d'une Porsche 911. On va revoir ce dépassement. S'approche de Terry McDonald-Cadieux, lui fait à l'intérieur. Au freinage, va aller chercher cette autre position.
Yeah, that was pure late braking, and also I think that Terry McDonald-Cadieux could have made it a lot tougher on Richard. But I think that at the early stage of the race, I think McDonald-Cadieux realizes that Spinard is on a man on a mission there. Some slight contact, but we think, yes, Richard Spinard now back on the power. It's a drag race. Will they touch? No, and Richard Spinard shuts the door.
Alors, il multiplie les exploits, il s'amuse, Richard Spinard, donc, il se plaît à prendre les positions une à une. Vous voyez comment c'est touché ici.
And that is another replay there of car number 94. That's the entry of Paul Duckworth. And Richard Spinard going metal to metal, door to door. And Richard Spinard will come through again to complete another lap. Scott Maxwell now with a nice big lead over Douglas Gode. John Heinrichsey now back in 4th place as Don Knowles takes over 3rd. And there you see John Heinrichsey, number 39, and now he is falling victim to Richard Spinard. And watch Spinard here as they come down. Yes, Spinard pokes his nose out, makes the move on the inside. And folks, this is the story of the race as Richard Spinard, driving like a man possessed, is on his way to victory. We think so far, because he is certainly going through this field like a knife through hot butter.
Je ne sais pas s'il s'en va vers la victoire, mais je vais vous dire une chose, il est en train de donner de son côté de tout le monde, ça c'est sûr et certain. Quand on est professeur.
Non, et quand je dis qu'il est en train d'aller pour la victoire, je pense que c'est pas un fait accompli, mais la façon dont il conduit, c'est comme le dernier tour d'une course. And just take a look again at the standings. It's Maxwell, Gode, Knowles, Heinrichsey, then Richard Spinard. Currently listed now, he's pulled ahead of him, of course, so now it's Richard Spinard who's made his way up into 4th place overall in the Grand Sports category. Further back in the touring and compact categories, other battles developing. And certainly Terry McDonald-Cadieux as she watches Richard Spinard head off into the distance. Now get a replay here, and some problems there. Yes, we have a puncture for car number 69. That is the Baron Peter car, and the tire shredded completely. We think there might have been some contact, perhaps.
Il va y avoir des débris sur la piste.
Yeah.
Baron Peter qui a désintégré son pneu avant de roi.
That could just be a blowout, and we see the Richard Spinard with a nice smooth line, and he begins his pursuit of car number 11 and car number 32. Car number 11, of course, is the Douglas Goat entry. Car 32 is Don Knowles. So Richard Spinard now up into 4th place, and while I said he's on a march towards victory, I think he has the podium definitely within sight. And now a spin, car number 69 losing it.
Et vous avez vu le freinage rapide pour éviter le pire de la part du conducteur de la voiture 89.
Yeah, and that was
Oh là là.
that was car number 69, the car with the puncture getting back out. That was Baron Peter with the fresh rubber. He rejoins the field, but then loses control and loses the back end in a very close call, forcing the other competitor to come to a complete stop. And now they're both back underway. And on the giant screens, we get a shot there of Scott Maxwell, the leader, who is looking like he's on his way to making it 2 for 2. As for Jason Priestley, currently we have him listed as he's down and around 15th place, 16th place. Scott Maxwell, as he comes through the hairpin, he's certainly not under any pressure at all from Douglas Goad. And Scott Maxwell in that MCI Mustang doing a very nice job. Trizec Hahn, another one of the sponsors. And as he comes down towards us, we see another battle developing further back in the field. That's car number 24 in the touring category. That's Andrew Linder. And he is currently locked up in battle with another Acura. That is the 98 entry of Michael Thornley. Both racing in the touring category. Once again, Maxwell crosses the line. We wait for the gap to second, and it's a long one. So Scott Maxwell just pulls away from the field here. And it's really not a battle for first or second place, but then back in third, we do see that Richard Spinard is closing in slowly but inexorably on Don Knowles in 3rd place. And Scott Maxwell, yes, he has a big lead, but he's really pushing it too, using all of the road, lots of horsepower there in that Mustang, and he's just flinging that car through the turns.
Belle démonstration également de la part de Scott Maxwell qui est tout fin seul dans son groupe. D'abord sa Ford Mustang, il a triomphé hier dans cette épreuve et il tente de répéter l'exploit. Quant à Richard Spinard qui a impressionné tout le monde tantôt par ses nombreux dépassements, il s'est lancé à la poursuite de Don Knowles qui est présentement en 3e position.
So as we see with Scott Maxwell, that big lead over Douglas Goad. We wait to see the battle for 3rd there. There you got car number 32 there of Don Knowles. And certainly, if he looks into his rear view mirror, he will see the smiling face of Richard Spinard. Because Richard Spinard should be smiling. He started back 19th on the grid, and he's back up to 4th. And yeah, Richard Spinard is closing in on everyone in this field. I don't think he has a chance to catch Scott for the win, but of course, this race is far from over. And with Richard Spinard, you never know until the checkered flag flies. That Porsche 911 was driven by Benoit Thige yesterday to a 2nd place finish in the Grand Sports class. And of course, Benoit Thige did not start 19th on the grid. That's what makes it all the more remarkable. And obviously, Richard Spinard, with all his years of experience, and I'll tell you one thing, he's having a pretty hectic weekend. He was here earlier in the week, then he headed off to Detroit. Of course, the Champ cars are racing there this weekend, and he was involved there with helping out with the team. And there we see Stephen Earle in the Ferrari number 99 coming under some pretty serious pressure from car number 69. So those 3 cars locked in battle, and car number 46 is the Greg Wilkins entry. So Greg Wilkins, one of the 3 Mustangs that are part of the Multimatic team. Jason Priestley, for information, about car number 45. So good scrap there between Ferrari and the Firebird. Steve Earle, of course, racing tomorrow in the Ferrari Challenge race. But at the front in Grand Sport is Scott Maxwell, Douglas Goad, and Don Knowles. And we'll get back to that battle in a second to see how they're holding up, because certainly Richard Spinard, if he can make it to the podium, that would be quite a story.
Stephen Earle avec sa Ferrari 348, voiture 99, était parti de la 4e position et on le retrouve 10e.
And Jason Priestley now shown in 18th position. Jason Priestley up to 18th, so a good drive from him as he is trying to do well here. And yes, there is a little bit of sun on the circuit right now, which is its first appearance of the day. Better late than never. And yes, Richard Spinard is closing in slowly, as once again this battle in Grand Sports is certainly a walk so far for Scott Maxwell. He made a good start, and now as the cars make their way towards the center hairpin, Scott Maxwell with a lead of around 8 seconds over his next pursuer in second place, Douglas Goad. Richard Spinard, and he's really closing in now on third place, so I guess he can smell it now. He knows the podium is not far away, and never mind third place. Second place driver Douglas Goad is also perhaps coming under attack in the next few laps.
Sortie de piste.
And we have a car off the track. That is car number 39 of John Heinrichsey. John Heinrichsey, who started second on the grid, is back underway with some rear end damage there. I don't know if he can stay out there, but just some light crumbling of the right rear quarter panel.
Alors John Heinrichsey, qui était parti de la 2e position, a éprouvé des difficultés, s'est retrouvé dans le décor, a pu repartir cependant.
And they're shutting into the giant screens of our leader in the Grand Sports class. Pardon me, that's Jason Priestley. And there we see the damages also. He's all over the road. So John Heinrichsey, after that off, certainly some damage to the cars. He's having trouble keeping it on the road now. And desperate battle for Heinrichsey here to keep that Pontiac Firebird on the road. He qualified well, just around 1 second shy of Scott Maxwell's time. And once again, we see this battle. And Richard Spinard is closing in quite a bit now on those cars in second and third place in the Grand Sports class. As for Mark Craig, of course, he is racing in the compact category. We currently have him listed in 28th place out of 36 cars. So Mark Craig involved in quite a battle in the compact category with with Jeff Lorman and Andrew Linder in the touring category coming behind him. But of course, Richard Spinard now getting very close now to making a move on car number 32, and he had the door shut on him at car number 48. That is the Achieva of Wagner. We have several cars off, one of them Ferrari. Yes, some damage there to Alex Rango, says Ferrari 348. That's an expensive one in car number 10. That is the Peter Cohen, Bertrand Godin entry. So both those cars stuck in the gravel. Let's see what happened here on the replay. And that was Alex Rango's making, a very, very, let's say, ill-timed move on the inside there. Not much respect for the Ferrari. And he made contact with two different cars there. So car number 44 of Alex Rangos being towed out of the action right now. And the number 10 car, the Bertrand Gaudin Peter Cohen entry, is also stuck into the gravel, and certainly that was not their fault. They were keeping to their line, but Rangos made a pretty rash move on the inside and thought he might get away with it, but car number 10 gave him no quarter at all. And I'll tell you that Peter Cohen's trying to get out there, but he is stuck in the gravel, not much luck. And there we see that Richard Spinard has made the pass. Richard Spinard has gotten around Don Knowles, so Richard Spinard is now onto the podium and certainly on the hunt, going after second place driver Douglas Goad.
Alors, Richard Spinard poursuit sa route vers le podium. Il vient de se défaire de Don Knowles. Maintenant, il est juste derrière Douglas Goad.
Here's the replay on the giant screen. The classic maneuver.
Au freinage toujours. Alors, dommage pour Peter Cohen avec cette sortie intempestive de Alan Rangos.
And now car number 79 reporting problems. He's out of the car. Car 79 is out of it because of a variety of problems. That is the Jerry Thompson Pontiac Firebird. So, folks, can King Richard make it to the second stop of the podium? He is now closing in on Douglas Goad in this Grand Sport battle. I think that Scott Maxwell has enough of a lead, but certainly we now see that car number 10 is rejoining the race. So after some help from the marshals, the Peter Cohen entry back on the track. And here comes King Richard making a move on the inside there. Car number 9, that's not a battle in class. And King Richard right on the tail of car number 11 of Douglas Goad. This could be it down the straightaway. He'll use some drafting here, some slipstreaming, and I suspect that he will make his move on the inside. Yeah, you'll see him duck out in just a moment and try to take away second place from Douglas Goad. There he goes with a question of late braking, and not even close as Richard Spinard makes the move, takes second place away from Douglas Goad. So it's Scott Maxwell now, and Richard Spinard runs in second place after starting 19th on the grid.
Alors, Richard Spinard a agi comme il a toujours fait. Le dernier a freiné dans le droit après avoir profité de l'aspiration. Et hop, le voilà maintenant installé confortablement en deuxième position. On va revoir le tout. C'est au freinage, encore une fois.
Yeah, you see it here that it wasn't even close as he moved out early. Slight correction there. Richard Spinard started 23rd on the grid, and now we have confirmation that car number 79 has dropped out of the race. His rear right tire went down. Also some brake damage caused the drivers out of the car. Thank you from our spotters for that. Nicely done.
Attention à ce qui vient de se produire là.
And Doug Goad
a repris sa position, mais Richard va reprendre à son tour. Donc c'est le jeu de l'intérieur, du fait l'intérieur, de fait l'intérieur. C'est évident que Goad a de la puissance.
Yeah, certainly Douglas Goad is not giving up so easily as Richard Spinard made the move. I think we're getting a replay now of what happened in our Players Atlantic race, the Players Challenge race. Here's the replay now. And you see that Richard Spinard perhaps missed a gear, had some slight problem there. Goad right away goes on the attack and takes the position back. But Richard Spinard back on the power. And that was one of those things that Goad made the move, but as he came out of the turn, he was offline and perhaps out of the right gear. And certainly Richard Spinard capitalized there. He is now pulling away from Douglas Goad. So after that scare for Richard Spinard, things are settling back down into more orderly fashion as Scott Maxwell continues to show the way here at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. And that is a story in itself, as Scott Maxwell seems to have the car to beat in the Grand Sports category, and will certainly be giving quite a battle to John Hennessy the rest of the way in the championship.
C'est évident que Scott Maxwell est à peu près inaccessible. Son avance est trop grande. Sauf que j'ai l'impression que celui qui s'est amusé le plus dans cette course-là, c'est définitivement Richard Spinard.
Richard Spinard now maintaining that gap ahead of Douglas Goad in third place. So it's Maxwell, Spinard, Goad, then Don Knowles in fourth place, then Paul Duckworth. Terry McDonald, Kadia having a good race. She is currently 6th overall. And then we have Mark Mitchell. And then we have Jean-Francois Veilleux and Stephen Earle. A bit further back in that Grand Sport battle. But I think the big question now is the gap between Scott Maxwell and Richard Spinard. And it is not even close. We wait for the time in scoring, but it'll be another bit of a while. Last time around, it was a gap of around 10 seconds. And that is tough to make up with only a matter of time left. And we'll see here again how close Spinard is. We wait to see. There we have on screen car number 0. That is the leading car in the Grand Sports category of Scott Maxwell as he makes his way through the casino hairpin on the power. And I'm trying to see if I see Spinard in the background of that shot. Yeah, he's just arriving in the hairpin now. So the gap between Maxwell and Spinard, it looks to be around 15 seconds, 16 seconds, and I don't think that Spinard has a chance here unless, of course, Maxwell makes a mistake or has some problem blocking slower traffic. Once again, it's Scott Maxwell driving car number 0. Jason Priestley is also in the race, but he is driving car number 45. And the third member of the Multimatic Sport team, he is driving car number 46. That is Wilkins. Greg Wilkins in car number 46. And currently we do have Jason Priestley involved in a battle with Gary Smith from car 47. In the Grand Sport category, but now we watch and see if Richard Spinard can make even more magic. He's going to replay of car number 97, locking up the brakes into the center turn. Back in, comes around, off the track, but then corrects it and gets back underway. Car number 97 being driven in this race by Jeff England. Yesterday we had Jimmy Chamberlain in that car, the drummer for the Smashing Pumpkins, actually the former drummer. And there we see, as I mentioned, of course, Scott Maxwell running into some traffic. This could be a big factor here. And Scott Maxwell flips on the headlights and the high beams, letting the other drivers know that the leader is coming through. And speaking of night driving, of course, the 24 Hours of Le Mans are taking place this weekend also in Le Mans, France. And the last time I looked, it was a Toyota 1-2. We'll have the results for you tomorrow. Of course, the race will be ending tomorrow afternoon in France around 4 o'clock. So with the time change, we should have the results for you by noon, perhaps even 11 o'clock in the morning.
On va surveiller ça de près.
There are several former Formula One drivers involved in that event. But again, we put our attention back to this pretty exciting charge from Richard Spinard. Again, we're seeing cars from different categories. That's the Honda Prelude, car number 51, driven by Dave Diedrich. And once again, a nice shot there from the giant screen cameraman, looking right into the cockpit of Douglas Goad, who finds himself in third place. And he has some breathing room now between himself and Don Knowles. So I think that if Douglas Goad can just keep it on the island, as they say, I think he's looking pretty good as the battle behind him. And the traffic has really played a big role here, as we see Richard Spinard making a move through traffic also. And another update from our spotters, we thank them. Yeah, John Heinersee has a brake problem and he's out of the race. He also made some pretty heavy contact with the wall just around the turn 6 and 7 area. Those of you sitting in grandstand 33 saw a lot better than I did.
Donc c'est terminé pour John Henry. Après son embardé, il a éprouvé des problèmes avec le freinage, donc c'est terminé.
And there we see some more action heading into that little corkscrew portion of the circuit. That hard right, downhill left portion. And then they blast through that area where Olivier Panis had his accident last year. And once again, you see Terry McDonald-Cadieux, car number 26 there, still battling it out. Currently, we have her listed in 5th place overall at Grand Sports, so a good result there for Terry McDonald-Cadieux. Of course, in yesterday's race, Terry McDonald-Cadieux only managed a 13th place finish in the Grand Sports category, so in terms of the championship, Terry McDonald-Cadieux has a great run going, and of course, a bit of an inspirational story regarding Terry, because last year rode Atlanta in a big crash, suffered 3 broken bones in her neck, was forced to wear the halo to keep her head immobilized, and Terry McDonald-Cadieux has made an incredible comeback to racing, and of course her duties as a pace car driver on the Champ Car circuit. And now she goes panel to panel with one of her fellow Grand Sports competitors. But I think Terry has the edge here, but no, I think that's not over yet. And Terry does a bit of squeezing there, trying to maintain the line, the right line. I think that she'll have it, unless there's a late break contest here. There will be 3 abreast in the chicane, but no. Terry McDonald-Cadieux gives some room. She backed off. And rather than have to pay for body work, she allowed that car number 94 of Peter Lockhart and Paul Duckworth racing it today, to take the position away from her. And now we have a car in the pits. That's car number 32. Car 32 of Don Knowles is coming into the pits. So certainly some problem there. So it's Maxwell, Spinard, and now we see a replay of Richard Spinard coming through the casino hairpin, and some problems further back in the field. I think Richard Spinard actually might have tapped the wall coming out of the casino hairpin. We'll see how that affects his race. So it's Maxwell, then Spinard, Gode, and Duckworth now takes over 4th place from obviously the damaged entry of car number 32 of Don Knowles. And yeah, they're working on the brakes. Obviously, his brakes are gone. And you see the smoke just pouring off those wheels. So it's Maxwell, Spinard, Gode, Duckworth, Terry McDonald-Cadieux, now 5th overall. Mark Mitchell 6th. Jean-Francois Veilleux now 7th, followed by Steve Earle. And so it goes. John Kohler now moves up the spot also, and also goes Greg Wilkins. And the rest of the field, Jason Priestley also now finds himself approaching the top 10. I think he's now listed in 15th position. As we wind the laps down here, as these dark clouds hang over the circuit, we want to see what's going to happen here. And yes, Terry McDonald-Cadieux being waved ahead by Mark Craig. And that was a good bit of sportsmanship there. As, of course, Mark Craig realizes that Terry McDonald-Cadieux is deeply involved in that battle in Grand Sports, and he allows the competitor from the other category to go ahead as Mark Craig will resume his battle. Currently, Mark Craig, we have him listed in a 26th position overall, and ahead of Michael Thornley, who's racing in the touring category. And as we take a look at Mark Craig, he is currently running in 4th place overall in the compact. Pardon me, he is running 2nd place overall in the compact category. Of course, we will wait. This is unofficial information, and we will wait for the final word from timing and scoring on where he stands. But as we follow the battle for Grand Sports, I think Scott Maxwell has this one wrapped up. But Richard Spinard will certainly be the headline in the newspaper tomorrow, as he comes through with a nice 2nd place finish after starting all the way back in 23rd position. Truly an incredible performance from Richard Spinard. Once again, Richard Spinard powers his way through the casino hairpin on the power again as he makes his way around the circuit. Scott Maxwell certainly having a dream weekend, as he looks like he'll be making it 2 for 2. And you can see on the track there just all that tire debris from the shredded tire that we had earlier on in the race from car 69. Of course, that was the entry of Stuart Jones and Baron Peter. Of course, Baron Peter racing it here today. So once again, as Richard Spinard crosses the line to wind down the laps. Scott Maxwell, the lead is getting a little bit tighter. I think that actually Richard Spinard, give him 5 more laps and there'll be a battle for the lead. But right now, I think that he's closing in slowly. And now we have an indication from the marshals that 5 laps to go in the race. So 5 laps remaining in this battle. And I think that if Richard Spinard is in radio contact with his pit crew, he knows he has 5 laps to do it. And I know a victory for Richard would put such a huge smile on his face, but come to think of it, I think even the 2nd place finish would be an incredible achievement for him, as he has proven that this car is really, really well set up for Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. And also, I don't think anybody knows this track any better, because when it comes to miles in the lead around Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, I think that Richard Spinard certainly is the man who has the most. It's an incredible story. Michel, c'est une histoire incroyable. Il était en Détroit aujourd'hui même, il est juste arrivé au circuit pour la course atlantique. Et on lui donne le volant, il n'a pas fait un chrono dans la séance de qualification.
C'est pas grave,
et
il y a du plaisir.
Oui, et tout
écoute, tu te rappelles quand il courait à la fois en série Porsche, en F2000 ou en GM Players? Qu'est-ce qu'il faisait, tu penses? Il participait à une course aux États-Unis, sautait dans un avion, donc il y a un hélicoptère qui l'attendait, ensuite c'était l'avion. C'était la folie furieuse. Au cours du même week-end, il pouvait se déplacer d'un endroit à l'autre pour participer à toutes ces séries-là.
And if you're wondering why Richard Spinard is the director of the Players Development Program now, wait for the gap as Scott Maxwell comes around to complete another lap. And it is definitely shrinking, the gap between Scott Maxwell and Richard Spinard. Once they're in the same camera shot together, you know something's happening. As Maxwell crosses the line, wait for the gap. And it's around 7.2 seconds, so that's quite a bit of ground to make up in 4 laps the way Maxwell's driving. But leave it to Richard. Now a good battle here with Terry McDonald-Cadieux duking it out with several other Camaros and Firebirds in the Grand Sports category. Of course, the Grand Sport are the most powerful, most quickest cars involved in the Motorola Cup Series. And I think Terry McDonald-Cadieux currently finds herself 5th overall, so it's Maxwell, then Spinard, then Doug Goad, then Duckworth, then Mark Mitchell, then Jean-Francois Veilleux now moving ahead of Terry McDonald-Cadieux. Of course, these are all unofficial times. Steve Earle now listed in 8th overall, then John Kohler. A bit further back, Jason Priestley. We have him currently listed 14th, pardon me, currently listed 15th overall, driving that Multimatic's Mustang car number 45. Alors Michel, je pense qu'on a toutes reçu une leçon de le roi Richard Spinard, et je pense que la leçon, c'est que même si on vieillisse un peu, on a toujours le sang d'un pilote dans les veines.
Oui. La crème remonte toujours à la surface.
Okay. I think we'll stop at that. 2 cliches, that's enough for one. Whoa, Terry McDonald-Cadieux with a big bounce over the curbs there. She has the car back under control, but whoa, a hairy moment there for Terry McDonald-Cadieux. Those of you sitting in the number 31 grandstand had a great view of that. That's corner 8 and corner 9. Here's a replay. Watch it as she goes over the curb. Bounce. She got some air there. Whoa, the turf goes flying. And some good opposite lock, and she keeps the car heading in the right direction. And I think there is some sod in that car right now, because certainly she tore up the grass there pretty badly, but luckily for Terry McDonald-Cadieux, she kept it going, and obviously I think she's lost a couple of places there. She had been running 5th in the Grand Sports category, and we'll wait till next time around before we have to correct it time in scoring, but certainly a wild moment there for Terry McDonald-Cadieux, and that could be a brake problem too. Of course, the brakes at this stage of the race are not functioning as they were to start.
Oui, parce qu'ils sont sollicités, qui n'est pas à peu près. Alors c'est C'est sûr que les freins ici, en étant aussi sollicités, pas facile d'en garder jusqu'à la fin. Hein.
One of the cars there, I can't make up the number from this distance, but it's car number 92. Car number 92, the entry of Derek Luger, has, I think, some problem. I see something dragging on the ground a little bit. I think there may be some exhaust problem. I don't see any sparks, though, but it does seem like a very, very low ride height for that car. We'll wait till we get a better view of that, but with the shadows, it seemed like there was something dragging, but there were no sparks. And there's Steve Earle involved in a little mini battle there with the car number 97. That is the Jeff England, Jimmy Chamberlain entry in the Grand Sports category. As mentioned, Jimmy Chamberlain, the former drummer for the Smashing Pumpkins. And in the Motorola Cup Media Guide, it mentions that Jimmy Chamberlain has fought a successful battle with drug addiction and is currently on the mend. And there's no better tonic for addiction than the addiction of motorsports. Good, clean fun, folks. Say no to drugs, say yes to auto racing. Certainly a motto for all of us. Well, I'll tell you one thing, Richard Spinard needs around 5 more laps to pull off this pass, and he's also having the problem now that he's catching some of the other back markers, lapping a few cars, and I think with a clear circuit he might have had a chance, but Scott Maxwell, whoa, he comes close to the wall there. That camera shot shows just how close he came to that Armco. That's one of our new camera shots for this weekend, and that is buried right into the Armco, and that is between corners 4 and corners 5, right near where Olivier Penis had his accident last year, that little downhill chute. And the camera is mounted right in between the slots of that steel fence.
Il n'y a pas un caméraman qui pourrait s'installer là et voir venir les voitures à cette vitesse-là sans se reculer. Mais quelle belle prise de caméra, quelle image. C'est saisissant.
There we see Richard Spinard really pushing it. He continues to put the pedal to the metal in his pursuit of Scott Maxwell. And there you see them, they're both in the same camera shot. And if Richard can get through the traffic cleanly, he might have a chance here. As we saw Scott Maxwell lapping the Acura NSX, that's the John Shirk entry that is being driven by Michael Neville tonight. And I do say tonight, there you see that Scott Maxwell is using his brights, letting the other category cars know that, yeah, I'm coming through. And maybe Richard Spinard should do the same thing as we are now approaching 7 o'clock in the evening, and the lighting conditions getting a little bit murky. We wonder if we wait and see as Scott Maxwell comes across the line with just a few more laps to go. He can hold on. And Richard Spinard is rushing it all.
Il a touché le mur avec son miroir, je crois.
How close can you get? Richard Spinard brushing the wall there with his driver's side mirror.
Un petit frisson plus.
Yeah, absolutely. So once again, Richard Spinard now has to get around this car number 9, which is the Alex Uhas, John Weisberg entry. John Weisberg behind the wheel tonight. I should say this afternoon, but it is getting a bit late. And there we see that Spinard makes the move inside of that Acura NSX. Car number 28 with Michael Neville. And there you see it, folks. They're the same camera shot of Richard Spinard. It ain't over till it's over.
They will manquer de temps, mais c'est pas le désir qui manque.
And they'll be getting the final lap sign next time around. So, folks, this is an absolute race for first position in Grand Sports. Of course, there are several other battles going on in the field as well. But this battle in Grand Sports certainly has my attention and probably yours too, as Richard Spinard, from an incredible 23rd on the grid, tries to close in on Scott Maxwell. Of course, as they come around, they should get that 1 lap to go sign. Maxwell powers his way down that long straightaway, and of course, I think that Spinard is making up time on the straights. I think that the aero package of the 911 and also the gearing and also the car's power will give it a chance here. So now as Maxwell negotiates the chicane, the marshal will be holding out the 1 lap to go sign. Final lap. We are on the last lap as Scott Maxwell has shown the sign. Richard Spinard sees it too. Wait for the gap. Down to just a few seconds. And unfortunately, there is also another one of the Multimatic cars mixing it up in there. One of the Mustangs. And that might be playing a team role here, perhaps. But no, that is not exactly from the same team. That's just another one of the Mustangs. And Spinard easily goes around him. And yes, folks, we got a battle here on this, the final lap of the Motorola Cup race. I can hardly believe what I'm seeing as Richard Spinard is slowly but surely reeling in race leader Scott Maxwell as they head through the turns. Spinard realizes that his chance for victory is coming up, and I tell you, it's on the straightaways, and we'll see here how Spinard does as it comes off the turn.
Il est à la limite, en tout cas, ça c'est sûr et certain.
Certainement sur la limite. Oh, oui. And Richard Spinard comes around, and is that Scott Maxwell? Yes, indeed, Richard Spinard has taken the lead. Absolutely miraculous. And I think there must be some problem with Maxwell's car. It could be a braking problem, who knows? But of course, Maxwell comes right back and is definitely challenging, but heading for the casino hairpin. There is a big round of applause from the crowd on hand here as Richard Spinard, certainly one of the big stories of the day here, as he powers through. He just has around half a lap to go. Can he hang on? Richard Spinard, this will certainly be quite a podium ceremony, folks. Stick around for that. And Richard Spinard is on his way to victory.
C'est incroyable. Parce que, bon, il y a 5 tours, on disait ça n'a pas de sens, il ne pourra jamais y arriver. Ben, il y est arrivé. Il a conduit à la limite constamment. Mais jamais il a été en perdition. Jamais on a cru qu'il pouvait l'échapper. Alors, parfait contrôle.
And the checkered flag is ready. Will it be Richard Spinard?
À l'accélération, c'est Richard Spinard.
Yes, indeed. Richard Spinard wins the race. Our Grand Sports winner, Richard Spinard, King Richard, and he pumps his fist in the air. An incredible result for the guy who runs the Players Development Program. And there he goes, nice little power slide. And looking at Scott Maxwell's car, there is some damage to his driver mirror, so obviously he's made some contact through the field along the way. And perhaps there was some tangle with a back marker that is the reason for Richard Spinard's attack. And as we wait for the last few cars to come across the line here, of course, there is the third spot on the podium that should go to Douglas Goad in the Grand Sports category. So Richard Spinard's the winner ahead of Scott Maxwell. So Scott does not get 2 for 2, but at least Maxwell's on the podium in both events. And certainly for Richard Spinard and also Benoit Pige, that is a great weekend for them. Car number 19 doing a great job. And there we see car number 45. That is Jason Priestley backing it at the casino. And is he out of getting out of the car? We don't know, but certainly Jason Priestley, who was involved in a pretty hot battle further back in the field in the Grand Sports category, tangling at the hairpin. We'll hope to get a replay of that for you. Let you know what happened to Jason Priestley there, but I think he might be able to get back on his way. We'll see. Spinard acknowledges the cheers. Big cheers from the hairpin crowd, as usual. A big power slide from Richard Spinard. He knows how to put on a show, doesn't he? And he knows that Porsche 911 well. Well done, Richard. Nice race. And here's a replay now of some action. I think this is heading down towards the hairpin. This could be that moment with Scott Maxwell, yes. As Richard Spinard slowly makes his way down towards the pit lane, and the podium ceremony awaits. And there are cheers from even the rival teams here as Richard Spinard makes his way in. And I think everyone, including the marshals, agree that was quite a performance from Richard Spinard, winning this race in the Grand Sports category ahead of Scott Maxwell, Douglas Goad, Mark Mitchell. Jean-Francois Veilleux comes in 5th, followed by Stephen Earle, Paul Duckworth and Terry McDonald-Cadieux comes in 9th, followed by Jay Maloney, Greg Wilkins, John Kohler, and Michael DeFontes. We wait for the final confirmation, but we can tell you the top 3. And here, getting another replay now of Richard Spinard as he comes very close to the wall and just taps the wall. And there we see the damage to Scott Maxwell's car. So it was not a back mark. It was Scott Maxwell also going wide as Spinard pulls off the balaclava. He's had a long weekend, but certainly this is worth it. Traveling back and forth to Detroit with his many responsibilities. And he is ready to hop out of the car. For those of you in the Gold Grants, have a big round of applause for Richard Spinard, the winner in the Grand Sports category. And a big hug. He gets a big hug from Benoit Thige. Nicely done, Richard, and the podium ceremony awaits. And the champagne is waiting for you. So, folks, there you have it. The first ever appearance of the Motorola Cup in Montreal. This showroom stock series, certainly no shortage of action. And for Richard Spinard, the trip from Detroit was worth it, as he finds himself on his way to the podium. A quick reminder now, as for those of you who are perhaps heading home, we want to thank you for your attendance here at the 1998 Grand Prix Players du Canada. And a quick reminder that we are back here tomorrow morning, bright and early, for the Formula One warm-up, scheduled to start at 8:30 until 9 o'clock. So for those of you who can't stick around for the podium ceremony, we want to thank you for your visit today. And of course, now that we have a chance, I want to thank the many marshals, the track marshals around the circuit. Many thanks for your help today. You did a great job getting the cars out of the way, cleaning up the wrecks, and keeping the track surface clean. A super job by our track marshals here at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve as we stand by for the podium ceremony. Once again, a reminder of the schedule. From 8:30 till 9, we have the F1 warm-up. From 9:25 until 9:55, it'll be the Ferrari Challenge race with Tom Papadopoulos on the pole for that race.
8h30 jusqu'à 9h, c'est la période d'échauffement de la Formule 1. Puis à 9h25, c'est la course elle-même pour le challenge Ferrari.
Tomorrow at 10:10, we have the Formula 4 Championship, the Canadian Formula 4 Championship race, scheduled to start at 10:10 until 10:35. And that should be a humdinger with a huge grid of 42 cars entered.
À 10h10, le départ de la course de Formule Ford.
And of course, at noon, we begin our serious pre-race festivities. We count down to the 1998 Grand Prix Players du Canada with the grid formation, the Parade of Nations, and those fabulous grid girls.
Donc à midi, c'est la formation de la grille de départ, le défilé des nations, et à 13h, le départ du Grand Prix Players du Canada.
And of course, the 69-lap Canadian Grand Prix takes place at 1 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, live here and live around the world. And of course, we all look forward to seeing what will happen in that race. Will it be McLaren, or will it be Michael Schumacher, or maybe even Jacques Villeneuve? We will know by tomorrow afternoon. Once again, there will be just a slight delay as we stand by waiting for the podium ceremony, timing and scoring, just making sure that all these results are accurate and that the right guys get the trophies. And in just a few moments, we will present to you the podium ceremony for this, the Motorola Cup. And of course, they continue their series throughout this year. And if you have a chance to visit any of the other racetracks in Canada, they'll be at Mid-Ohio June 12th. They'll be in Watkins Glen on June 26th and 27th. And also they'll be at the Molson Indy in Toronto for the July 17th through the 19th weekend. The Motorola Cup then moves on to Trois-Rivières, which is pretty close by from here, for the August 1st and 2nd Formula Atlantic weekend. And Mosport Park, August 8th and 9th. Then off to Watkins Glen, Road Atlanta, Mont Tremblant, or Summit Point. It hasn't been determined yet. And then finally, the season will close at Homestead, Florida in October. So certainly a long season awaits and plenty more battles, plenty more chances for Richard Spinard to be the talk of the town.
Alors, dans quelques instants, nous serons en mesure de vous présenter cette cérémonie de remise de trophées. 12 coureurs vont se retrouver sur le podium. 4 catégories, on le sait, sont inscrites à cette épreuve de la Coupe Motorola. Grand sport, sport, tourisme et compact.
Drivers now making their way to the podium, and in just a few moments we will have for you the official podium ceremony. And that young lady in the red jacket is one of the media personnel here at the Canadian Grand Prix. Of course, a great job being done by all the staff here at the Grand Prix Players du Canada. The hundreds of people who work at this race have done just a superb job all weekend long. And we're just waiting for the official confirmation of the results. We will have the podium ceremony for you in just a few moments.
Alors nous sommes prêts à procéder avec la cérémonie de remise des trophées. Je vais vous présenter d'abord pour ce qui est de la classe compacte, M. Anthony Stedelman, qui est en charge de la production chez Castrol Canada. I will now introduce to you Mr. Anthony Stedelman, Product Manager for Castrol Canada, to present the awards in the compact class. Troisième position dans la classe compacte. Third place in the compact class. Voiture numéro 23, car number 23, Manny Matz. Deuxième place, second place, voiture numéro 6, car number 6, from Hyundai Motorsports, Mark Craig. Première position, classe compacte, voiture numéro 8, car number 8, de l'équipe Hyundai Motorsports, Jeff Waterman. Et pour présenter les trophées de la classe tourisme, j'invite M. John Kleinfelter de A.N. Derringer. Troisième position, on passe plutôt à la deuxième. Deuxième position, classe tourisme, voiture numéro 98, car number 98, de Thornley Racing, Michael Thornley. Première place, classe tourisme, voiture 24, car number 24, from Power Racing, Andy Linder. Et pour la présentation des classes sport et grand sport, j'invite M. Doug Brownridge, du service de mise en marché de Motorola Canada. Dans la classe sport, third place, voiture numéro 51, car number 51, from Formula Honda, Dave Didrick. Deuxième position, voiture numéro 22, de l'équipe First Racing, Michael Culver. Première place, voiture 81, from Fitzgerald Racing, Mike Fitzgerald. Et maintenant, dans la classe grand sport, troisième position, third place, voiture numéro 11, car number 11, de l'équipe Powell Motorsports, Doug Goat. Deuxième place, second place, voiture numéro 0, de Motomatic Motorsports, Scott Maxwell. Et première place, voiture numéro 19, first place, car 19th, de Fiorano Motorsports, Richard Leroy, Richard Spinard. Alors, messieurs, ne vous gênez surtout pas pour célébrer. Sortez le champagne, s'il vous plaît. Tout le monde, d'ailleurs, tous les pilotes devraient être en haut. Félicitations, toute une course. Mesdames, Messieurs, je pense que vous avez apprécié cette journée. Vous êtes encore là, quand même assez nombreux, en dépit de l'heure tardive. Soyez surtout très prudents pour le retour à la maison. On sera là, nous, demain matin. J'espère que vous y serez également.
Vous savez que nous avons une journée exceptionnelle demain. Le tout démarre à 8h30 avec la période d'échauffement de la F1. J'ai donc le